Welcome to MUTV. I'm Larry Linehauser. Today, this show is coming from Manatee County Emergency Operations Center, where they're practicing a statewide exercise, a statewide hurricane exercise, because hurricane season is right around the corner. We're going to be interviewing several players here. We're going to find out how they come together during an emergency, how they interact, how they respond and coordinate with each other, and all the logistics behind the scene that we don't get to see as citizens. There'll also be some good tips for you as citizens of how to prevent and be prepared for hurricane season coming up. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the show. Joining me now is Dr. Jennifer Benzie, County Health Officer. Jennifer, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Larry. Appreciate the opportunity.
Okay, we're working a storm here, a fictitious storm right now. This is a statewide hurricane exercise. Where does your role as public health come into play?
The public health role in this type of event involves our making sure that the health and medical system in the county has the resources it needs to stay involved in the activities and be able to provide services to any of the clients who need it.
Do your personnel go to any of the shelters or come to the EOC, the Emergency Operations Center? Do they go to any of the shelters or anything like that?
Absolutely. In addition to making sure that the healthcare system in the county is up and running and getting the resources it needs, we are also responsible for the special needs shelter, which it takes in those individuals who need a special medical attention, especially during an event like this.
What are your biggest concerns? Like, I guess the first scenario they gave with Hurricane Gibson was that there's massive flooding, so there's public health issues all over the place. What are your biggest concerns right off the bat?
Absolutely. Well, access, both to get to patients or clients who need assistance, and to make sure that they can get to the services they need, whether it's a hospital, to clinics, dialysis centers, et cetera. Obviously, we want to make sure that EMS can transport patients and have access on the roads as well. And then we also look at environmental health issues, for example, making sure if there's a lot of water issues that we're warning people about boiling their water if need be, mosquito control, those type of things as well.
What is the benefit of an exercise like this where you're bringing all the players from all the different disciplines into the EOC?
Well, we always want to know each other ahead of time and not exchange business cards, they say, during a disaster. And so Manatee County is well known for training and exercising and really drilling throughout the year to make sure that if there is an event that we all know who to contact, who we need, who has what resources, and how we can work together to find solutions to the issues.
Dr. Benzie, thank you very much.
Thank you, Larry.
Welcome back. Joining me now is Lieutenant Scott Kemp with Manatee County EMS. Scott, what do you think of this exercise, and what do you think the benefit is to get everybody together in one place?
Every time we have any kind of an activation within the EOC, there's typically a lot of players, and very often the players change, and so having these exercises every year certainly facilitate the ability to get them exposed to the process of handling events and managing certain things throughout the events.
As an EMS provider, and the only one in Manatee County, what is your biggest challenges from an EMS perspective, emergency medical services perspective?
Obviously, our primary concern is the public safety, hence being part of the public safety department. As far as the EMS division is concerned, however, we want to maintain our operations as normal as possible in these kind of situations when obviously we have a lot of extra chores and tasks at hand. Another focus for EMS is specifically with hurricanes or any kind of event that requires activations or evacuations, is those that have special needs that are truly bedridden and require stretcher transport to get to a safe haven.
So how often do you guys train for this type of scenario within EMS internally?
Within EMS internally, we Just basically once a year when the EOC does this.
What is the single biggest challenge for EMS in something like this, where the storm obviously is a lot of flooding, a lot of evacuations? You guys have to get there. What's your single biggest issue?
Surge and call load, basically. Usually, as would be expected when there's an emergency to deal with, and people are confronted with having to deal with things that aren't normal to them. They look to us as public safety personnel to assist them, and it of course impacts our services in addition to our standard 911 call load that we run on a daily basis. The other biggest concern that we have, specifically with storms and hurricanes, is when we reach the inclement weather and we have the high winds and all that sort of stuff. There usually will reach a point in time when we have to suspend services altogether for the safety of our personnel.
Do you guys change your mode from normal operations to a particular operation during a crisis or an emergency?
Typically, in a full type event, we would go to a 12-hour shift with we call all of our personnel in off duty and put them on 12-hour rotations, where we typically normally work 24 hours.
Scott, thank you very much for joining us. Appreciate your input.
No problem.
Joining me now is the Director of Neighborhood Services, Cheryl Cory. Cheryl, welcome to the show.
Hi, how are you?
Tell me how this event benefits you and what you hope to take away from this.
Our responsibility is the temporary housing, and so we come into effect of 21 days into an event. So what we're doing right now is we're communicating with the other ESFs, primarily Mass Care, number 6, to determine how many people are in shelters that will need temporary housing on day 21. We're planning those sites.
For the benefit of the public who doesn't know what ESF is, can you explain that?
Yep, it's an emergency essential functions, and in temporary housing that means our department, because we're normally in charge of affordable housing in the county. We help coordinate for longer term housing needs for people where their home might have been damaged or destroyed.
How often do you guys do this? This is an annual hurricane drill?
This is an annual, but we do periodically work together. For example, with Mass Care, we work with them throughout the year to determine how they're assessing people that might be leaving a shelter and then moving to our area. And we attend some monthly meetings to keep up to date.
What do you and your personnel hope to take away from this type of exercise?
We hope to have a better plan so that we can make that transition from the Mass Care shelters to temporary housing. And then the other thing is we have to go out and find the locations in the community. And so, of course, by doing this annually, those sites might change. They may become unavailable and we have to reestablish new ones. And so it gives us an opportunity to assess the land in the community to see where we might be able to locate people.
Do you have like a memorandum of understanding with different areas so you can have a place that you go, well, we talked about this before the storm hit, rather than trying to do it, as they say, exchange business cards during a disaster?
We do. And we've perfected that over the years to be available. And right now we have 4 sites that are relatively large that could hold RVs, tents, or other housing elements that have agreements with. And we hope to get some more.
It's good to hear, and thank you so much for joining us, and have a great exercise.
Thank you. Thanks.
Welcome back. Joining me now is Cindy Sloane, the food bank coordinator for Meals on Wheels. Cindy, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Larry.
Cindy, what is your role specifically during a situation like this, even though it's hypothetical right now? This hurricane season is right around the corner. What is your role?
Well, this is my first hurricane exercise, but as food banks in the state of Florida, we realize that we have trucks, we have loading docks, we have storage, we have freezers and refrigeration capacity with backup generators. We have access to water, so we realize that in a disaster that we could probably play an important role. With Meals on Wheels, we have a kitchen that could be utilized for food service if need be. So we felt it was our obligation and our privilege to become involved in the community and see where we could plug in and help.
What do you hope to take away from this type of exercise today that you could take back to your organization and perhaps tweak things or do whatever?
I think a lot of it is just the networking, finding out who all is here, what role they might play, exchanging numbers, seeing how we can coordinate and collaborate, because that's where we are more powerful as a team.
This is your first exercise, but it's not Meals on Wheels' first exercise, I'm assuming.
That's correct. You're correct. We have been involved before, and I am just now being sent over to see, where I can help to step up and maybe offer some options as to what we could do.
How soon would you activate your process if a disaster hit?
Well, I think we would come in under some of the other big emergency operations people like Salvation Army and Red Cross, and we've already developed a real good rapport with them, and they know that we're willing to assist if we can. So that's where it all is going to work out.
Sounds great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Pleasure interviewing you.
Thank you.
Joining me now is Sharon Harmon from Manatee County Emergency Management. She's coordinating the hurricane exercise today. Sharon, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Can you give us a 30,000-foot view of what you hope to accomplish today?
Our biggest accomplishment would be building relationships with our partners. We have over 120 people in the room, and they come from all disciplines. We have people from transportation, the port, the airport, the hospitals, from every walk that would come and assist during an activation.
What do you hope the takeaway will be by coordinating with all these different multidisciplines?
The takeaway would be that we've learned something on how to work together, and maybe we're finding gaps in where we need to do improvements.
What is the message you'd like the public to take away from this event? They see what goes on in their lives, but they don't see what goes on behind the scenes. What would you like them to know?
I would like them to know that they need to be prepared. Preparation is very necessary for them. Making sure that they have 7 days of food and water, knowing their zone. Are they in an evacuation zone? Are they not? That's what they need to know.
What is the best way they can access information that would help them? Is it a website? Is it a phone number? Is it a guide? Or all the above?
Well, we have hurricane guides this year. They will be at the libraries. They can pick them up at the Public Safety Center or any of the county buildings, and they can know their zone. They can go to www.mymanatee.org and find out what their evacuation zone is.
Do you have a website, emergency management link to like hurricane preparedness type stuff?
Yes, we do. So if they go to the My Manatee website, then they can link to emergency management and get the information that they need.
Sharon, thank you very much. Enjoy your exercise.
Thank you, Larry.
Joining me now is the fire service, and we have J.D. Hadlock on my left, who's the battalion chief with North River. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, sir.
I have David Ezel with Bradenton Fire Rescue, and he is the assistant chief. Welcome.
Thank you for having us, Larry.
Can you please just kind of walk us through your role in an event like this and the benefits of this type of exercise?
Well, first, we maintain every area of fire, search and rescue, and hazardous materials, and we monitor every incoming item with that and try to make sure it goes to the right ESF function if it's not ours, and to make sure we're properly handling them in the outcome and gain the outcome it needs to be.
Okay. David, for you in the city of Bradenton, what role and what changes for you guys when an event, if a true storm were to hit, what would change for you?
Well, the primary purpose here today is to help bring up some of our newer personnel that don't have the experience within the EOC. We want to make sure that they're able to get plugged in within the county, and also understand how we go about obtaining resources from outside the area if needed. So pretty much everybody that's working up at the table today is a newcomer to the process, so we're allowing them to take the frontline role and just getting them used to how things flow across an interagency type of operation.
Okay, this is obviously a multi-jurisdictional event. For you, what is the benefit of having all these players in the room at the same time?
Oh, like everything, teamwork and networking, and get everybody on the same page.
David?
Pretty much the same thing. Figuring out what the problems are before we actually have the event. Make the connections, determine who your key players are going to be, who your resources are, and just understand what you can do in an actual event to make things go more smoothly.
Gentlemen, thank you very much. I appreciate it and enjoy your exercise, and hopefully it'll just stay hypothetical versus real.
Thank you, Larry.
Thank you.
Joining me now is Bill Tokinger, the Chief of Holmes Beach Police Department. Bill, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you very much. Pleasure to be here.
Bill, you guys are on the barrier island, so obviously you're going to have serious impact. What is the benefits of an exercise where everybody comes together in this EOC?
What it does is it gives us an opportunity to reach out to all the players so that everybody knows who they are and we get to interact with them. This tabletop exercise allows us to actually interact, make sure that everything is working, all the computer programs, all the interaction, that everything goes together seamlessly so that in a real scenario, we hit the ground running without having to worry about, oh, well, this isn't linking up with this. And so this is it's genuinely a blessing to us to go through these tabletop exercises. I bring my entire staff of senior officers with me so that they can work through it each year to refresh themselves.
Being on a barrier island, what is your biggest single concern? Obviously flooding would be one, but depending on where the storm's coming from, but either way, if it's coming from the west or the east, you're going to be impacted.
Right, we're going to have the flooding and we're going to have the evacuation concern because we have the people that will say, I don't want to evacuate. Okay, so we have the problems that would come up with that. Then we have the flooding. Then we would have the re-entry, issues that would come up after the storm has passed.
I know that through the years there's been some debates about voluntary evacuation versus mandatory evacuation. What does state statute say regarding those two?
Well, even if it's a mandatory evacuation, we can't forcibly take people out. We wouldn't have the manpower to do that. No agency would. We do the best practice. We tell them there's a mandatory evacuation. We're telling you to leave, and we would give them something like a toe tag if they decided to stay.
What would be your message to the residents of Holmes Beach if a storm should be coming?
Pay attention to what we tell you, and if we tell you it's time to evacuate, then do so.
Chief, thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thanks for having us.
Okay. Joining me now is Chief Dan Binoy with the United States Coast Guard. Dan, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Nice to be here.
Dan, tell me the importance of doing an exercise like this and how it benefits the players in this room.
Well, with the Coast Guard, we have so many units that are in the individual communities. It's important for us to be able to cooperate with our local agencies and to be able to understand the processes that we're all going to collectively deal with together to better respond to hazards.
What would be Coast Guard's role specifically in a situation if a storm was inevitable?
We have numerous roles in the Coast Guard, primarily being search and rescue for personnel in the water, but we also try to understand what's going out onto the water as far as waterways, making sure they're open, and then being able to respond to pollution hazards that are affecting our local areas.
In this region, what do you think the biggest areas of concern would be if, say, we had a surge from the Gulf or a surge from the intercoastal waterway to the barrier islands?
I believe the coastal areas will have the biggest impact, and the storm surge is what I primarily focus on.
How often do you guys train outside of this type of exercise in the Coast Guard?
We train through the ICS system very often. We do it pretty much monthly. As far as the hurricane exercises, we do 2 a year, one with you guys and then one with the Coast Guard for 5 days.
And you guys are under DHS, is that correct?
Yes, we are, DHS.
Dan, thank you so much. I appreciate your time, and I hope we have a quiet season.
Okay, thank you very much, and I hope you do too. Take care.
Joining me now is Ernie McFarlane of the Manatee County Emergency Communications Center. Ernie, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Ernie, tell me the importance of an exercise like this where all the different disciplines are here working together.
I'll sum it up to preparedness. When a real situation happens, these exercises prepare us on how to deal with any given situation because we practice what's most likely to happen here in Manatee County.
From a communications perspective, which is always seems to be the big sort of monkey wrench in the wheel, what is your role during an event like this for real?
To work here in the ESF, in the Emergency Operations Center, the role of 911 or in general.
In general and 911.
We're going to be overloaded, inundated with telephone calls. You're going to have damage. We may not have the ability to communicate with, because of, like in this scenario, we lost a radio tower in Mayaca City. That means we can't communicate with East County. How do we overcome that? Well, we switch to East County Tower, the Duet Tower, and we also have temporary towers on trailers, if you will, that we can go and erect. It's going to take time. What do you do between now and then? How do you communicate with field units, mobile units, and you do the best you can?
So potentially, depending on the severity of the storm and the damage it causes, there may be times where there's simply no communications available because there's nothing there. What would you tell the people, the citizens, if that should happen? Just basically take the individual to a hospital via car, or what?
That's a difficult question to answer, simply because what's happening right now? How severe are the winds? You know, you don't want to put someone's life at risk because of a minor, it may be a broken arm, which might not be minor to them. It's important, but at the big picture, it's not life-threatening. We are more concerned about people get very concerned when they can't communicate. What happens is, with everyone trying to use their cell phones, they overload the system. There's blockage. All of a sudden, you can't pull dial tone, you can't call, and by the way, you don't have a landline anymore, as 75% of our residents don't. So when everyone tries to use the phone, you have an issue. Be patient. We know there's problems out there. We have people on the ground. We're surveying the situation. We're trying to determine the extent of damage. And we are responding to the most life-threatening situations. We have implemented what we call regional dispatch, where the fire departments are dispatching most of their own. Of course, we're trying to answer calls, but again, it's be patient.
Can you, in layman's terms, can you convey how you guys communicate with all the different disciplines here, law enforcement, fire, EMS, emergency management, whatever it might be?
Well, first is radio communications. We have the ability, we have talk groups here, we have the ability to talk to MSO, to different fire departments, to EMS, all on what we refer to as talk groups, to where we can communicate with them, broadcast over air. So as long as we have our towers here, by the way, we have generator power here, we can run for a week and survive. The mobile units are running off of their vehicles' power. If they've got gasoline, they have power. If the main towers are up, we will be able to communicate with, let's call them first responders. Okay? How do we communicate with the public? Depending upon the extent of the damage to the communication center, it's going to be over telephone. The problem is the system will get overloaded and they're going to encounter blockage, which, how do they react? How do you get real excited when you can't get anybody. I call 911 and all I get's a busy signal. Not good. So,
well, listen, thank you so much for your insights, and hopefully it'll be a quiet storm season, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you. All right.
Welcome back. Joining me now is Karen Stewart with Manatee County Economic Development. She is the manager of that program. Karen, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Larry. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Tell me your role in this type of event should it go down.
All right, well, I'm the lead for ESF 18, which is business recovery. And we work together with our community partners. We have a business recovery network, and we are on standby to help businesses get back in business quickly. Our goal is to keep all of our resources local, so whatever we need to bring the economy back locally, we want to use local companies. We want to make sure our citizens get back to work quickly, and we want to make sure that we get the economy moving as fast as we can. And we work together with all the different ESFs to make sure that the business community gets up and running quickly, and so our citizens can get back to work.
What is the benefit to you of doing an exercise like that with all the players in the room, basically?
Well, it's a great opportunity to see everyone before an event happens and to build those relationships on the front end. And also, in all the drills that I've done, I've learned one or two things that's important to our plan that we've made. And we have a very robust plan for recovery for businesses, but it's a chance to exercise it, see how it works, play. And hopefully we'll learn something that'll be important to us if we ever do have to go through the recovery process.
In layman's terms, talk about the economic impact of an event like this in Manatee County. What would happen?
Well, according to FEMA, about 40% of businesses never recover after a storm. Of those who do come back, only about 29% are in business after a couple of years. And of those who lose their IT services for more than 9 days, they go bankrupt within a year. So the speed to recovery is very important for the community. We want to make sure that we get things done quickly, that we're there with the resources that are needed to get companies up and running quickly. We also work with our state partners for the small business bridge loans. We work with the building department for doing damage assessment, and so we're ready to get to work quickly and help our businesses come back.
Karen, that's some great information. Thank you so much, and enjoy your exercise, and hopefully it'll stay hypothetical.
Okay, thank you, Larry. I hope it does too.
Take care. Joining me now is Neil Kurlander with the American Red Cross. He is the lead for mass care for the Red Cross in Manatee County. Neil, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Helen.
Tell me your Red Cross's role. I know you guys are famous for disaster response and managing that. What's your role in today's exercise?
Well, this is a recovery exercise, so what we're working on is opening enough shelters to handle the evacuees from the disaster.
Okay, and what do you see as the biggest benefit of bringing all these disciplines together in the Emergency Operations Center in Manatee County?
Well, under a real situation, a real scenario, we all have to work together. So for mass care, for example, if somebody has to be moved through a shelter, then we have to work with the transportation department from the school district or other sources. We have to work with food services to feed the people and so forth, medical services, search and rescue. All those have to be coordinated so we have an efficient operation.
And Red Cross's role would be in the recovery mode more so than the initial response, but at what point would you guys sort of kick things into gear? I guess when the shelters start to open, is that correct?
No, actually, we start 120 hours before the event ever happens. Okay. So we're pre-positioning people and shelters and materials to respond to the disaster. So if it happens, we're ready to, everybody's in place. It's a lot of things that have to be coordinated to make an efficient operation.
So what would you tell the citizens of Manatee County to do in the event that a storm was maybe, say, 72 hours out?
Well, 72 hours out is kind of late to start. So obviously if they have hurricane shelters for their houses, they should button them up. If they don't, they have to go to some place that's safe as they can get, obviously a shelter if need be. But we would hope that they would prepare much sooner than that. They would have a hurricane kit, they have an evacuation plan, and so before 72 hours show up, they know what to do.
Neil, thank you so much. I appreciate the information.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Joining me now is Sally Hall with the Manatee County School District. She's the Director of Safety and Emergency Management. Sally, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
You're a facilitator in this exercise. What exactly does that mean?
That means we just kind of give a lot of injects and give situations to the Red Cross and the school district, see how well they communicate with each other and how well they work together to solve some issues that we might have at the shelters.
Now, the school board obviously plays a major role in this because you're the shelters for the county. What do you see as the benefit of an exercise like this with all the players in the same room?
Well, it allows us to see who we're dealing with if we actually do activate, and also, builds those relationships and allows us to communicate with people so that we know how the Red Cross would operate and how the school board would operate and how we can do that together.
What do you see as the most important role for the school board, basically it's the school district, when something like this happens? It should happen for real.
Well, one of the things that I really like people to understand is we don't have a choice but to open our shelters. So school will be closed, and we don't have a choice for our staff to work it. So that's one of the biggest things that a lot of transplants from up north that don't have to deal with hurricanes or activation like this have to realize is, we're still working.
So what do you hope to take away from today's exercise with Hurricane Gibson?
Just kind of giving my new director and my partner manager of security a little bit of taste of what it's really like in an activation and what will be their role.
Sally, thank you very much, and hopefully this will remain hypothetical.
Thank you.
Joining us now is Joel Richmond from Manatee County Animal Services. Joel, welcome to the show.
How are you?
Good. I think a lot of people overlook the importance of being prepared to take care of their pets in an event like this. What would you tell people, the citizens from Animal Services perspective?
Well, the most important thing is to have a plan. Recognize that your animals are just as important as your family members, and you're going to have preparations in place. You're going to have cages. You're going to have food, leashes, portable water stations for them, and be prepared to stay overnight or perhaps several nights with your animals.
What does Animal Services do in this capacity? Should this event be real versus hypothetical?
It's hard to say exactly what we do until we're faced with that challenge, but, ultimately we try to preach preparedness. What we're going to do is we're going to be ready to, assist the citizens where we're needed. We're going to assist in the shelters, the pet-friendly shelters, and should any, major animal emergencies occur, we're going to be there to do what we can.
Let's talk about pet-friendly shelters. I know we have some. What type of pets are acceptable and what pets are not acceptable?
Well, we encourage dogs and cats only, but we've seen lizards and big snakes. We obviously don't want the exotics or anything crazy. At the end of the day, when it's down to crunch time, we're not going to turn anybody away. But it's going to be your dogs, cats, ferrets, rabbits, something that is very easy to contain.
Mammals.
Mammals. Yeah.
So, what is your role in a pet shelter? What is Animal Services' role in a pet shelter?
Really, we stand by, and we're there as animal experts to assist if anything happens, any kind of emergencies to break out, or aggressive animals, or injured, sick animals that the owners may not have the resources to help, and that's kind of what we do.
Joel, thank you very much. Good information. Enjoy the exercise.
Thank you.
Joining me now is Steve Simpson with Manatee County Emergency Management. He's an emergency management officer with the county. Steve, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Larry.
Steve, this is quite an undertaking to get from a logistical standpoint. Can you kind of walk us through the process?
Well, the process starts many, many months ago when basically when the last hurricane exercise ends, we're starting to think about the next hurricane exercise. And based on the after actions reports that we've seen come in, what are we going to do? How can we improve our process?
What do you think the benefit is, or what's the biggest benefit of getting all the players in the same room at the same time to kind of work through this stuff?
Well, you play like you practice. And if you practice with the people you're going to play with, you're going to do very much better, very much better.
All right. As far as today goes, you're a facilitator. You've got one of the vests on. So what is your role?
My role today is I'm running actually a sub-exercise. I'm running a CIC, or Citizens Information Center exercise, where we actually start out in one room with the full electronic gear for the volunteers who are taking calls from the public and entering the information into our web EOC system. And I'm actually moving them from one place to another to assess what in a small microcosm, what a COOP or continuity of operations move would be like.
Can you, for the citizens, kind of walk us through, in layman's terms, what web EOC is?
Web EOC is the communication software that Manatee County uses. It's becoming ubiquitous in the state of Florida. And it's a communications software so we can maintain and know what needs to be done, who's doing it, and it's also part of our ordering process for gear and follow-on forces so that we can help the citizens of Manatee County.
Now, this is a statewide exercise, is that correct?
Yes. It's
been
going on all week.
Okay. So this is y'all's turn in the bucket right now, if you will, so to speak. What is the takeaway for you guys and for all the players in the room that you would like to see everybody go home with?
I'd like everybody to go home with a sense of accomplishment. No exercise should be a failure. Exercises should learn where the challenges are, opportunities for improvement, so that we can make better choices for the citizens.
Steve, thank you very much, and good luck on the exercise, and hopefully it'll be a quiet season.
Thank you, Larry.
Once again, I'm Larry Linehauser, and I want to thank you for watching this episode of METV Statewide Hurricane Drill here in Manatee County. You saw a lot of things going on today. You've got a lot of information. Please go to mymanatee.org for further information under the emergency management's link for information regarding hurricane preparedness, what kind of kit you need to have, etc. Now you know what goes on behind the scenes with the emergency management staff and all the public safety individuals. Hopefully it's informative, and hopefully you can take away from it what you need to keep yourself safe and your property safe. I'm Larry Linehauser. Thank you very much.